Hey all, and welcome back to this trending news channel. I'm really glad you're here today because we've got a big legal story to break down, one that's already creating waves across the political and justice system landscape. So grab a snack, get comfortable, and let's talk about what just happened with the sudden dismissal of the criminal cases against James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. And trust me, the reason these cases were tossed out is not what most people expected. So here's the deal. A federal judge dismissed both cases, but not because the evidence was proven weak, and not because Comey or James went through a full trial and won. Instead, the judge basically said, hold on. These indictments shouldn't have existed in the first place, and it all came down to who brought the charges. And honestly, it's one of those rare situations where the process was so flawed that the entire thing unraveled in court. Have you ever had something in life where one tiny procedural mistake ended up ruining the whole plan? This is exactly that, but on the federal justice level. Here's what went down. The prosecutor who filed these charges, Lindsay Halligan, was found to have been unlawfully appointed as interim U.S. attorney. And that simple fact changed everything. The judge ruled that because her appointment wasn't done correctly, every action she took in that position, including signing the indictments against Comey and Letitia James, was invalid. It's kind of like someone pretending to be a referee in a game. Even if they make all the right calls, the game still doesn't count because they weren't authorized to be there in the first place. Now, these cases were intense from the beginning. Comey was facing charges related to allegedly making false statements and obstructing a congressional proceeding. Letitia James was being hit with charges including bank and mortgage fraud tied to a property purchase. And these cases didn't happen in a vacuum. A lot of people believed they were closely connected to President Trump's long-running tensions with both of them, especially considering Comey's history with the 2016 and 2017 investigations and Letitia James' major lawsuit against the Trump Organization. So, naturally, when these indictments dropped, the political conversation exploded. Let me ask you, whenever legal cases involve political figures, do you tend to focus more on the facts or on the motives behind them? It's one of those situations where everyone brings their own lens. But what made this even more complicated was the timing. Before Halligan came in, the previous U.S. attorney reportedly did not want to prosecute either of these cases. Soon after he resisted moving forward, he was sidelined, and Halligan was brought in. And within days of taking that seat, she filed the indictments.
So, what do you think?
Does the timing of a decision ever change how you interpret it? But the judge didn't even need to get into political debates. She focused on the law. And legally, the Attorney General can only appoint someone as interim U.S. attorney for 120 days. After that window closes, the power to appoint shifts to the district court judges. But Halligan was appointed after that 120-day period expired, meaning the Attorney General no longer had the authority to put her in that position. So when she filed those indictments, she was doing so without legal power. The judge called it an unconstitutional exercise of executive authority. Now here's something important. The judge dismissed these cases without prejudice. That means the Department of Justice can bring these charges again, but only if they do it through a properly appointed U.S. attorney. In Letitia James' case, that leaves the door open. But in Comey's case, the judge noted that the statute of limitations may have already expired. So even if the DOJ wanted to retry, time might simply be up. Do you think the government should try again, or should they leave this chapter closed? There's also the political impact. Supporters of President Trump have argued that these cases were necessary for accountability. Critics said they were politically motivated. And now this ruling has become fuel for both sides. Some say it proves the cases were rushed or mishandled, while others say it proves the system protects political insiders. Moments like this really highlight how deeply divided public interpretation can be. When you hear a high-profile case collapse like this, what's your first thought? The system is broken, or the system worked? Looking forward, the next steps depend on the Department of Justice. They could refile charges against Letitia James. They could drop everything entirely. Or they could wait for the appeals process to play out, because you can bet this kind of ruling won't just fade quietly. It also raises bigger questions about how interim U.S. attorneys are appointed. Should the process be tightened to make sure something like this can't happen again? And beyond the legalities, This moment is a big reminder of how important proper procedure is in government. Even the smallest deviation, even one forgotten step in an appointment process, can take down cases involving some of the highest profile figures in the country. It's wild, but it's also kind of fascinating. All right, before we wrap up, I'd love to hear what you think. Was this the right call? Should the DOJ refile? And do you think this ruling strengthens trust in the justice system or weakens it? Thanks so much for hanging out with me today and breaking down this major development. If you found this interesting, helpful, or even just eye-opening, make sure to hit that like button, share this video with someone who'd want to know what's going on, and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive. I always appreciate having you here, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay curious, and I'll talk to you soon.